Welcome to the Candle Business Coach Podcast, a show about the craft of candle making and small business. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I'm a candle maker, mum of three, and kindness advocator. Join me as I dive into all things candles and small business and deliver advice and tips to you in episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Are you on the list to get my daily motivation emails? Every day I'll send you a message that is designed to help keep you focused on taking action toward your goals. Sign up using the link in the show notes. This episode is proudly sponsored by Pack Queen and their newly created candle box gift range. Designed to keep your candles secure during transportation and give your customer the ultimate unboxing experience, these boxes offer stylish designs and protection for single and multi-pack candles. With over 15 years of experience in the packaging industry, Pack Queen is an Australian manufacturer you can trust. Upgrade your candle packaging and stand out from the crowd by adding custom printing. Order now at packqueen.com.au and use the code CandleCoach10, that's CandleCoach10, for 10% off your first order. Get your candles to their destination safely and in style with Pack Queen's candle boxes. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have another wonderful candle maker conversation, this time with the beautiful Jenny. So Jenny, would you like to say hello to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. It's really exciting to be on the podcast. I've been listening since you started it, so I feel like a celebrity to myself doing this.
Totally, yep.
I am a candle maker, as you say, and I also make organic cosmetics. And I've been doing this for many years, but my business hasn't launched yet. I have just moved back to Australia after living in the UK for 12 years, so regulations are very different over there. So I started in about 2016, I think I started candle making. And so I've been perfecting my craft, let's say, over many, many years. And the time is finally almost here to launch. I'm planning to launch before the end of the year.
Amazing. So we're recording this episode on the 11th of August, 2023. So you've got a few months before the date rolls around for launch, which is so exciting. I remember just before I launched my business, the excitement and the anticipation and just feeling so aligned with what I was doing and wanting to share with the world what I'd been creating. So I can completely agree I completely see how excited you are as well. And as you say, you've been working on this for years, since 2016. So it's definitely a long time coming, but it's obviously in the right timing that is in alignment with you, which is so important.
Yes, it feels like it. It feels right.
Definitely. So tell us about your business name and the meaning behind the name.
My business is Hampton Botanic, and it took me years to come to this. And I think that coming home was really important for me in helping to establish that part of the identity of my brand. Hampton in Melbourne, in Victoria, is where I grew up. It's where I'm from. I had spent my whole childhood there. I moved away when I was 18 and I've lived all over the world. I've been away for so long, and Hampton was always where I came back to. It's where my family were, where my friends were. And when I came back to Australia last year, we were in the process of selling the family home and moving away from that area. And it was just such a big part of my life. And the home that we lived in, it had been in our family for 100 years. So we had such a strong connection to that house in particular and the area itself, which is a beautiful area. It's right by the beach. There's lots of gardens and parks. And it's just a beautiful place that had a lot of meaning to me. And so I feel so strongly connected to the place that it just it seemed to make sense to me to incorporate that as part of the brand. And then I will maintain my connection with the place even though I've moved away. Then Botanic, because I'm an all-natural kind of person generally in life, and definitely it's a big part of my brand identity and the ethics as well. I'm using only natural fragrances in my candles as well, which is a big part of my something that makes what I do different from a lot of other candle makers out there. So I just wanted to make that very clear with my branding that this is a natural plant-based kind of company.
I love that. And I had a little look at your Instagram before we jumped on this call, and you actually designed your own logo, which is incredible and beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's been a really long process, and I'm actually not sticking with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think so. I love it. So we'll see how it ends up developing. I spent hours on Canva, as I'm sure many of us do, so long tweaking and trying to come up with things, but it's really not my forte. It's not my area of expertise. And I do love the one that I settled on, but I don't know how that's going to translate if it's very small. The graphic design part is just not my bag. But luckily, I have a friend who is a very talented artist, and she's currently working on brand design for me. So I thought, rather than me sitting here stressing about things I don't know about and giving myself yet one more thing to learn, I've outsourced that. So she's going to come up with the logo, with label design. She'll do the website. She does e-commerce, all of that stuff, the things that were really kind of doing my head in and that I don't enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a lovely friend taking care of that for me. So I'm very
Amazing.
excited to see what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. And being a friend, like you'd feel so comfortable sharing your vision with her and being able to go back and forth in the process until you're completely happy and satisfied with how it's going to look. So that's another exciting part of bringing the launch or coming up to the launch is getting all these little dominoes in place that just make the whole process worth it. And I love how you've outsourced as well. I think that's one thing that many of the candle makers I speak to don't necessarily do because whether it's time constraint or money constraint or just that feeling, that need for control with all aspects of their business. When you find yourself trying to learn yet another skill, as you say, it can be really stressful and overwhelming and it can take the joy out of the experience. Whereas if you've got someone that you can connect with or you outsource to a professional business, it can just make the process a little bit less stressful for you, albeit it can be a financial investment. So it's just weighing up what the best option is for you in your situation.
That's right. And I really think that it's something that I took from your podcast and listening to the conversations with other people that you had was giving myself permission to not do everything, as a DIY business person. You really feel like you've got to do everything yourself, or it's a sense of pride, and I don't know, it's just kind of a part of the expectation of yourself that you will do everything, and I'm grafting and I'm bootstrapping this and I do it all myself. And to be able to let go of that control is one thing, and also to let go of the emotional attachment to feeling like I own everything here. It's still mine, but I'm getting help from an expert, and to know to allocate some resources to that was really something that was really helpful, that I learned from listening to other conversations that I probably wouldn't have allowed myself to do otherwise.
I love how you said you gave yourself permission to do that, because when we allow ourselves to let go of parts of our business, let go enough that someone else can come in and help us and support us, but we of course have the final decision. It doesn't make us less of a business owner. It doesn't make us less than a person, like less worthy of a person because we've outsourced part of our business. It actually makes us more, what's the right word, business minded or business savvy. Because if you think, I know we're small businesses, but if you think about what the big businesses do, they've got teams of people, they've got lots of different avenues that they go down to get the different jobs done. To try and think or to try and get everything done yourself is really stressful. And we've got families, we've got jobs, we've got other commitments, we've got a house to run, we've got all these different aspects of our life to try and operate. And then you put all that pressure on yourself. So to be able to say, you know what, no, I actually give myself permission to let part of this go and have someone help me is really empowering.
It is, yeah. And I'm so excited because now I know that I'll feel confident in the look, and the feeling of the brand is going to be able to capture the way that I feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I never quite got there with the designs that I was trying to do myself. And the woman who's working on it for me, she really gets it. She's very talented, very creative. So I know that I'm going to end up with a much more polished looking product than I ever could have done myself.
Amazing, but it'll still encapture your vision for your business and the dream and the direction that you want to go, which is so awesome.
Mm.
So tell me, have you worked with different types of wax in your process of testing and growing your business or starting your business?
I have. I'm not one of these people who listens to the advice very well. They say choose one wax Choose one fragrance, choose one vessel, start with that. That's not my style at all. I'm the kind of person who needs to try all of the things just to make sure that it's, what I don't want. Process of elimination, it's a really important part of my process. So I tried the Denali, I've tried other cocoa soys, I've tried straight up soy blends, the eco soy, and then I'm working on some pillars as well. It's not my main thing. It'll take me a little bit more time to develop, but I've tried several different pillar waxes as well.
Oh, incredible. Were you stressed or overwhelmed during that process, or is that just how your mind works and you were able to juggle it all?
Yeah, no, I love it. It probably makes things take longer for sure. It definitely, it's more time and it's more money, but I feel much more satisfied if I've tried everything and I'm certain that I'm going with one that I like. And some of them, it's really easy to see straight away, oh no, I don't like the way that burns, or it looks a little bit funny, or,
Or the
it's,
reset isn't quite perfect, or
yes, yeah.
but it's so important to know, and you've got this down to a T, know what you want from your brand and what your values are and what's important across, like, the botanic. It's in the name. It's cemented in what you believe as being important for your business. So knowing that you perhaps wouldn't go for a paraffin, or that you wanted to try and do a soy blend, or 100% soy, at least trying them all, you can then, as you say, satisfy yourself to say, no, this is definitely not the direction I want to go. It's not representative of my brand, and I just don't like the way it looks or burns or smells. So yeah, it's great that you've actually done that in a way that's made sense to you, rather than just picking one, going with it and hoping for the best, and then not ever knowing if that decision was the right one for you.
Yes.
What fragrances stand out to you, and what do you want to include in your fragrance line?
So the majority of the fragrances that I've selected to at least start with are garden sort of smells, fruits and florals, herby kind of smells. They also are the ones that I like. And I know that you can't only go with ones that you like, but they make sense fitting in with my brand. But then I do also have a couple of perfume dupes, a couple of sort of foodie, sweet ones as well. I'm a lot more limited in my fragrance choice because I've decided to go for the all natural ones. There are probably thousands of standard fragrance oils that you can choose from, whereas I've got, I don't know, 15, maybe more. I mean, there's a supplier that I've bought quite a few of my fragrances from, who's an international supplier, but all of a sudden they're out of stock of almost everything. So I don't know if they're winding down production completely. It's a little bit hard to get information out of them sometimes. So I'm kind of dictated by what's out there as well. But then within that, I can create my own blends. So I definitely am going for more kind of earthy, natural kind of fragrances, but with some surprise kind of perfumey ones in there as well.
I love that. And I love how it's still representative of your brand and what you enjoy as well. Because even if there was a particular scent that would be a bestseller, if you can't stand making it, is it really worth going down that path? You want to enjoy making the candles, right? You want to enjoy the process of
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. And I'm really sensitive to fragrances, which is another reason that I've selected to use natural fragrances rather than synthetic, because I get all sorts of respiratory problems from synthetic fragrance. I get heartburn, which is weird because nothing else gives me heartburn. I get sneezy and I get irritation in my nose and all sorts of things. So there are certain, even within the natural fragrances, there are some that are just so strong. I can't work with them. It's too uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And there are plenty of companies selling all the different kinds of fragrances that I know that I don't need to cover off everything, because if people have really something particular they're looking for and I don't offer it, they can find it somewhere else. I don't need to be a one-stop shop.
Exactly. And that's so powerful to say that as well, because when I speak to lots of different candle makers, they have that, it's almost like that fear mindset of, if I lose this customer, I won't make that sale, I'll lose that customer, they'll never come back. But there are literally billions of people on the planet, and a lot of those people live in Australia as well. So, and that's where most of the candle makers I speak to are from. So you will find your target market, you will find your target audience. It's about making the business suitable to your needs and your desires, but also keeping in mind what the customers want, but not being dictated by every single conversation you have with different customers. Because as we said, like, there are thousands of different fragrance oils. There's no way that you can possibly make and accommodate for every single customer. It's just, you just can't do that.
Mm.
What kind of containers do you use? What sort of jars or vessels? Have you got a particular look in mind, or is it depending on the season? Or sort of tell us a little bit about your decision process when it comes to vessels.
I do. And again, very much in line with the theme of Hampton Botanic, I've got, at the moment, the vessels that I'm using are green, pink, and purple. I've got some hologram ones, holographic. Well, I'm not sure what you call it, but the kind of the rainbowy kind of iridescent ones that I'm using. So those are the ones I'm starting with. Also, I have some clear jars as well that I've been testing because I want to be able to have different price points available as well. I live in a really small town, and it doesn't feel right to me to only have a really sort of expensive product available when it might not be what a lot of people are looking to purchase at the time. So I've been testing the clear vessels as well because it's a much lower price point, can still make them really beautiful, but be able to offer something for everybody.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's so good to be mindful of where you live, and if you're going to markets, what price point is most suitable for the people that live in that area. When it comes to online, I mean, the sky's the limit with what you could charge depending on who your target market is. But not everyone has, limitless sales on their website when they first begin. They need to build up that customer base. They need to build up that know, like, and trust with the different customers that they have, and social media certainly plays a huge part in that as well. So it's good that you're considering all aspects of the business, which I think is really smart.
Thank you.
Have you thought about the aesthetics of your candles, like the labels and the packaging, and how that will look to your customers?
Well, I've got Jess working on it at the moment, so I'm kind of waiting to see what she comes up with. I did send her through some examples of ones that I'd made myself on Canva, but I'm very much a maximalist. I'm not good at pulling things back. And so there's pictures of birds and pictures of flowers and all sorts of things on. And I can barely fit on the legal information that's required onto the label the way that I do them myself. And I know that I've always got too much going on. So I'm hoping that she's going to bring me back something that is much more streamlined but still beautiful. It's really important to me that everything is really beautiful. I lived in London for a really long time, and so you've only got space for functional objects there, and that's where I started making candles. So really, I just wanted all of my functional items to be beautiful, and it's really important for me to bring that aesthetic through. And so also even on the candles themselves, I'm decorating them with embeds, really delicate, beautiful little embeds, just to give it another layer of beauty to it.
I saw a picture of that on your Instagram as well when I was having a look before, and the photo was of the candle, top of the candle looking down, and it looked very delicate and beautiful and very almost like you wouldn't want to burn the candle. It was just so pretty, and I love that you're still being safe when you're making those for the candle as well. There are two minds about whether we add crystals and botanicals into, floral elements into our candles. And as we know, not every customer reads the care card. Not every customer knows to remove remove the objects before burning. But with the ones that you've been doing, at least the one that I saw on your Instagram, it's part of the candles. There's no extra step that the customer needs to take to be safe and to make sure that they're burning their candle in a safe way. It's either enjoy it for its aesthetics, or you can burn it and enjoy it that way as well.
Yes, and that's important to me as well. I mean, people can do what they want, obviously, but I live in a regional area, so fire is something that is always on the forefront of people's minds, and we just wouldn't risk it out here. People might still buy something with dried flowers in, I don't know, but I don't know anybody who would risk burning something with dried flowers or herbs or those kind of elements in. We wouldn't risk it out here.
It's a different mindset in the country as opposed to in the suburbs for a variety of reasons I'm sure we can get into. Are you considering making candles for special occasions or different seasons?
I absolutely will consider doing seasonal fragrances, and it's not something that I had really thought about at first. I know that other brands do it, and I mean, I enjoy them myself, so I wouldn't specifically go and buy a Christmas scented one myself. But last year, I had a friend who asked me if I could make a pine scented one because her partner's allergic to Christmas trees. And so she hasn't been able to have a real Christmas tree in her house for years, and she really misses that smell. And so she asked, "Oh, can you do a Christmassy pine fragrance candle?" And I thought, well, yes, I can do that. Got to work in my lab and put some things together, and I thought that's actually a really nice idea, even if it's something that I wouldn't necessarily go and buy myself. There's clearly a need for it. So that put me into the mindset of thinking seasonal things are actually something that's really useful for people.
Definitely. But considering you've got a lot to consider between now and launch day, you may not necessarily bring in a whole nother range just for the Christmas period. You've got enough on your plate.
I do, and my supplier is out of the fur fragrance that I wanted to use, the balsam fir. They don't have any of that at the moment, so maybe for next Christmas.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like if you start a candle business, or I suppose it goes for any business, you should be looking at it for the long term. So there shouldn't, I say shouldn't, not necessarily, you shouldn't people, but if you're going to be in business for many, many years, if you want to see your business grow, whether it's a fast track growth or if it's a slow burn, pardon the pun, you don't have to do everything at the same time. You don't have to bring in everything for every season or for every opportunity. Just relax into it. Know that there will be enough time to grow and learn. There's so many things that you need to learn that are specific to candle making, but also specific for business. And unless you've got a lot of time to be able to dedicate to learning how to make the candles, learning how to grow the business, doing all the different aspects, it can be really overwhelming and it can stop people in their tracks rather than relaxing into the fact that you're going to be doing this for the long term. You don't need to rush everything. You don't need to know the answers to everything right away. You will get through it. You will be able to figure it all out and just enjoy the process and enjoy the journey.
Yes, and that's such a hard lesson to learn, but such an important one.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I mean, even just space-wise, if you're testing, I mean, I'm testing probably 15 different fragrances or something. I've got boxes of candles everywhere, in every cupboard, in every corner, because I don't have the space to spread these things out, and then you've got to test them all. So it's a nice way to think about it in terms of, oh, this is something that I can do next year. I can add to my range by doing this.
Exactly.
It's a way to help you, because I'm a person who likes to do everything now, have it all done now. And so if I can trick myself by saying you can look forward to doing that next year, it's a way to get around the need for immediacy.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of pressure again that we put on ourselves because we feel like we're going to miss out on an opportunity if we don't have everything in place. But if you can, just stop, take a breath, and just slow down a little bit. You will have time. You will get there.
Yes.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by the Membership for Candle Makers, the Candle Makers Collective. Becoming a member gives you access to fortnightly online group Q&A coaching sessions to support you, monthly online workshops and trainings to help you grow your business, plus frequent expert guest speakers to inspire and teach you. You'll also have access to an ever-growing resource library with templates, guides, planners, and ebooks. But my favorite aspect of the membership is our exclusive Facebook group for accountability, connection, and support. So if you're looking to take your candle business to the next level and learn more about the Membership for Candle Makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Speaking about candle making, where has been your most frequent places of doing your research? Do you normally go to YouTube or the Facebook groups? Where do you find out the information to actually grow your business?
Yes, all of the above. And I think it's really important to use all of the multiple resources that are available, because you can't possibly get all of the information that you need from one person because it's such a one-sided view. So absolutely, the Facebook groups, they've got their limitations, which I've heard you speak about a lot on the podcast before as well. It's not always very pleasant. It's not always a nice space to be. You've got your Facebook group now, which is really nice because I feel like it's a much more inclusive environment. But I have learned some really valuable information in between the sort of know-it-alls and which is fine. People are there to share their knowledge, but personalities can maybe appear a bit more abrasive online than they would be in real life. Or maybe they're just abrasive people. I don't know.
Maybe.
YouTube as well, definitely. Listening to podcasts, business books. I've always, for years and years, I've listened to a lot of business podcasts, small business podcasts. So all of those things are really helpful. And just talking to people, just chatting to people like yourself and to other people who I've met throughout the process who make candles as well. There's nothing like an informal chat for solving a problem.
Definitely.
And also there's no teacher like experience. And you just have to get in there and do it. And sometimes there are answers to questions that you really want to know and you just can't find out until you get in there and do the work yourself. You just got to get through it.
Such as, what's the best wax to use? Everyone's got a different opinion because there are so many different variables. There's so many different factors. You need to actually just try a few, as you've done, and see what you actually enjoy working with, the result, the aesthetic, the hot throw, the cold throw, all of the different elements. You've really just got to try. There's no one answer.
Mm.
How do you plan to test and ensure the quality of your candles?
So there is a resource that I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube channel by a guy who is a candle scientist.
Ooh.
And he has done, I think he says he's tested over 4,000 candles, something like that. And he has a really specific process. So I follow his process. And it is, it's always a 4-hour burn and you go around and test every hour the flame length and the melt pool length. And he just has these really specific parameters that I've found really helpful because it can be a little bit uncertain what you're checking for all the time. So he's really the first person I've seen to give some very clear boundaries of this is acceptable, this is not acceptable for a candle that's going to go to market. He's American, so they have a different kind of code or standards than we might use in Australia, but I've found it a really good starting point to feel confident in my burns.
Yeah,
my test burns.
Yeah, if you can send me that, I'll add it to the show notes and then we can then the listeners can click through and learn a little bit more about that testing process.
And I'm also really old school with my testing. My engineer friend said to me, "You need a spreadsheet for that. I'll make you a spreadsheet." I said, "Yes, please, that'd be great." We haven't got around to it yet. I have a folder inches thick. I use paper and pen. I record everything by paper.
Yeah.
It's just the way that works for me.
Yep. No, I love that because I can certainly relate. Like I've got notebooks full of notes for the testing and just my thoughts and I guess journaling as well. So there's just, pen and paper is certainly my favorite by far. So considering you're about to launch, you've obviously had to think about who your target market is. Have you also thought about your pricing strategy for the core range of your candles, not necessarily just for people in your local area, but do you know, like obviously you know what your cost of goods is. Do you feel comfortable with your pricing strategy?
Yes, I think so. I haven't got it locked down yet. I'm not quite at the point where I have all of my packaging, for example. So I need to wait to get my final cost of goods, I suppose. But I feel fairly confident. And again, it's because I've done a lot of research as to what's acceptable or what's the usual way to work out your pricing structure. It's difficult putting a price on your work, isn't it? A price that you deserve and what the product is probably worth, but it's difficult to ask people for money, and it's difficult to ask for the amount of money that really the candles are worth. But you just got to do it. So I feel comfortable and I don't feel comfortable, but it's something that I will sit in the discomfort of until I get more used to it.
Yes. And that's such a good point that you raise about, well, just sort of paraphrase, feeling worthy of the price that you set for your creativity or for your candles. So many candle makers I see price their candles really low because they feel like they're going to get more sales, but also they're scared to ask for more money, even though the candles that they're making are absolutely stunning and deserve a higher price tag. And it comes down to your self-worth and what you believe that you're worthy of to ask for. And I heard a saying the other day that your net worth is directly connected to your self-worth. And I thought that was really interesting because if you're feeling confident or if you are confident with your craft or with your candle making, with the labels and the packaging that you've chosen and the full aesthetic of your product, you'd feel no issue or you'd feel no discomfort in asking for a higher price tag, higher price point. But not everyone has that confidence, and that's part of the personal growth journey of having a business. It's not just a business growth, it's very much personal growth, and that's just one of the lessons that many people unfortunately still need to learn.
Yeah, that's so true. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time to build that confidence.
Mm-hmm. And it takes exposure and experience and having that inner motivation, that inner fire to not give up. But not everyone has a big motivation drive when it comes to their own personal growth. It's something that we can, skirt around a little bit and not necessarily want to dive into because it's hard, it's confronting, and it does take work and it takes effort. And if you're not prepared to do the personal growth, your business directly won't grow in the same way.
Mm.
What challenges have you encountered so far in your candle making journey?
So many challenges. I feel like it's nothing but challenges. And just when you conquer one challenge, there's another one. But I like challenges, so that's good. Probably the challenge that bothers me the most is dealing with suppliers and knowing that you can't always get the things that you want, because that's a challenge that's out of my control. So that's the one that kind of bothers me and worries me the most. But gosh, so many challenges. I mean, even learning the temperatures to heat the wax to and pour to, or pour at, add your fragrance oil at. Challenges of space. Since I moved back to Australia, I've been staying with my family, which has been amazing, and I'm so grateful. But all of my stuff has been in a cupboard, and whenever they were out of the house, I would ferry everything out of the cupboard and put it on the kitchen bench, and then ferry everything back into the cupboard again at the end of my session. So that's been a huge challenge. I'm really lucky. I'm moving into a house in a couple of weeks, and I have my own studio that I've been setting up, which is so exciting. And I finally will have space to have things set out. So that challenge will be one that's been dealt with.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. And we've been chatting a little bit on Facebook Messenger, and I feel like I've been a part of your journey with moving and preparing and getting the studio ready and all the renovations and everything. So it's just so exciting that you're so close to having your own space, because then that will free up a lot of your mental space to be able to just enjoy the process and get on with building the business and launching.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And also physical, it's going to literally save time, because I don't have to schlep everything in and out of the cupboard anymore. Yeah. The wax melter can stay set up and everything will have its own place. It's going to be amazing. And I never expected that I would be fortunate enough to get to this stage. So I feel very grateful.
Oh, I love that so much. What are your goals for your business?
I definitely feel like this is a long-term business for me. And as we've talked about, it's sort of 7 years in the making. So I definitely want longevity. So it's really important for me to do everything properly, not just to try and push hard and fast, but to build up the brand. So I don't know anything about marketing, so I'm probably going to look for getting some help with that as well. My goal is to make beautiful products that people love, and to have people want to buy them, and to realize, especially for people like myself who have sensitivities and can't burn traditional candles and have problems with a lot of the candles that are out there in the market, to realize that you can still burn candles. Actually, here are some that won't irritate you. To be able to bring that kind of beauty into people's lives is a big goal.
They've been missing for however many years, because they've just thought, I can't burn candles. It's case closed, move on. You'll be able to educate people and say, no, actually you can. There are alternatives to the traditional candles that you get in the big box stores, or they're just those synthetic fragrances. You've got you've just got so much opportunity and growth potential based on what your brand mission is, which is incredible.
Thank you.
So I know you haven't quite launched yet, but you're obviously very busy preparing for the launch and all things candle making and business. How do you prioritize your to-do list each day?
I'm a person who works very well in chaos. I'm not particularly structured, and I used to work as an executive assistant, so I have the ability to be very organized, but I don't tend to work that way for myself. I'm more I work very much in my head, of just like I'll make a list, but in my head. So I just look at what really needs to be done and get it done. That's really the basis of it.
It's funny, when I ask that question to the different people I've had on the podcast, everyone has a different method that they work on. And it's funny because, when you're in your own head, or you don't necessarily get the opportunity to speak to people and ask the same question to each person, you sort of think that the way you do it is the only way that people do it, or that it's the right way to do it, but it's just the way that you've learned how to adapt and function in society. So I love asking that question, because it means that that we all get a little bit of insight into the different ways that we can manage our day and manage our to-do list, which is really interesting.
Mm. Yeah, I love hearing the people, I love hearing the organized people as well who say, I get up at 5 a.m. and I make my list and I cross the things off the list and it feels so satisfying to cross the things off the list. And I think, oh, that must feel so good. And sometimes I'll make a list, but do you think I ever look at that list again?
Yeah, no. If you can remember, like if you can trust your memory, then it's not so bad. But otherwise, yeah, put it on pen and paper or put it in your phone, and then yeah, work on ticking it off. But not get
Mm,
overwhelmed by your list. I feel like if you have too many things on your to-do list, it can be overwhelming, and then you don't want to do any of it because it all seems too much. So maybe
mm.
start with 3 to 5 things, the most pressing things, and then if you can get all them done and then, do other things on top of that, then yeah, it's been a successful day. But don't feel the pressure to get everything done every single day.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about what you do?
It's a difficult one to answer because I love the process. I just love making candles and I really love cooking as well. And so for me, making candles is very similar to cooking. It's something that I find very therapeutic. I like the process. I know what I'm doing, so this happens first and this happens and there are steps to follow and you might get a little bit creative with it, but the mixing, I love mixing the fragrance oil in. I love pouring. I love watching the candles set. I love burning them at the end. I love the whole process. It just makes me feel good.
So good. And I'm sitting here nodding, which the listeners obviously can't see, but it's true. Like you just lose yourself in the process because it's just, yeah, once you've learned the basics, you can almost switch your mind off a little bit and just go through the motions, but in a really relaxing and therapeutic way. So yeah, I'm the same. Like I love all the different aspects of candle making, whether that's okay, what fragrance am I going to use today, or how, like, the thinking behind or before you start, and then you turn your wax melter on, you get your fragrances out, you measure everything out, and then go through the process. So yeah, it's I agree. Like it's just everything about it is just so lovely and so wonderful. And people that have yet to make a candle but are creatively minded, I always say, give it a try. Just, make a couple of candles, see what you think. Because I just, you love it so much and it brings you so much joy and you want to share that joy with other people. So, yeah, I completely agree with what you said.
Mm.
What gives you motivation to keep going when things get tough?
I think that the desire to keep producing and to make this work is just stronger than any of the problems that I come up against. It wouldn't really occur to me to give up. That's not on my radar at all. I would always find ways to go forward. And there have been times when it has been particularly challenging. I mean, I'd been making candles for about a year and then I moved into a place that didn't allow candles. I moved into a 14th century pub in England and you weren't allowed to have any open flames in this place. So for a year I couldn't do anything, but I kept my things there and I kept doing my business research and working on that part of it. And even though there were only tiny steps for years, it was only tiny steps forward, it was always something that was in my mind that this is where I'm headed. It might take me a long time to get there, but I'm headed here. And it's just always moving forward. If it's something that you want to do, you keep going and it never occurred to me to pack it in.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. For me, it was, yeah, exactly the same, especially with this business, the coaching business. It just becomes part of your identity almost. And to think that you wouldn't continue on the path that feels so right and feels so in alignment. Yeah, as you say, it just wouldn't cross your mind. It's just inconceivable.
Mm. And I think that if you were at the point where you felt like it was too much and you didn't want to keep going, then it's not the right thing for you anymore. And that's fine as well. It's totally fine. But if it is something that you're passionate about, you find ways to make it happen.
That's right. The challenges are completely surmountable because it's just part of the process, part of the journey. It's not something that you come up against a challenge and go, that's it, game over, I'm out. It's like, all right, how do I navigate this? What can I learn from this? How can I adapt? How can I evolve? And then you get over it and you keep going.
Hmm.
How do you define success?
I love this question because I never really had a tangible answer to it. But I remember on one of my really early dates with my partner, he was only 25 when we met, and we're early dates, maybe second or third date or something. We're walking along and he casually said, I know what success looks like to me. And he sort of went through the steps, and it was about, having a big enough house and being able to do what he loves, it's his story, so I don't want to go into it too much, but he had this clear idea of what success looked like, and I'd never even really thought about it. And since then, I have thought about it, and success it's happiness, isn't it? It's being comfortable and being happy, having the luxury to be able to create a business, hopefully sustain a business, build a business, grow a business, and to be able to work full time in the business. That's from this point what I imagine success will look like. But I think it keeps changing. It keeps growing as you grow what the next successful moment will be. Mm-hmm. But the most important thing is to feel happy. And if that's the goal, then in the moments where I think, oh, this business, it's not happening fast enough. I thought that I would have been launching a year ago and I'm not there yet. And this has been happening. And you can start spiraling a bit. And I just remind myself, wait, how are you feeling? I feel really happy. I'm really happy at where I'm at, even though the business isn't there and this might not be there. I'm so happy and I'm so pleased to be where I am at this point in life, which is not necessarily a place I ever imagined I would be, but I'm happy. Like how wonderful.
And we have such a privilege, we're in such a privileged position to be able to even consider starting a business, yes. to then be starting the steps of the research and then, buying the equipment and then learning the craft and then actually making candles and doing all the things. Like, what an honor, what a privilege it is to be on this path and on this journey, and to know that life is more than just the 9-to-5 grind and only looking forward to the weekends. Like, not to get too philosophical, but it's so important to find more purpose and more meaning in our lives and in our days. And for those that I've spoken to on the podcast, and I speak to people in my DMs, we're all on our own personal missions, and we've got something bigger than ourselves that we're working towards. And that, I feel, is a huge part of what success is, because you're not being stagnant in your life. You know that there is more for you. And the more that you can shine your light out onto what your purpose is, you help other people do the same, which is so empowering. And it makes you feel really warm inside and really connected to something bigger than yourself.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true.
We have come to one of my favorite parts of the podcast, where I ask all my guests 3 questions relating to candles. So number 1, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
Like most of your guests, it's ever changing, and probably the new one that I've created, or the new one, the current one that I'm working on, is a favorite. But one thing that I always come back to, it's fresh grass. Ooh, It just smells like a freshly mown lawn, and every time I smell it, it just makes me feel happy and invigorated. It's so fresh. It's a little bit sweet. It's a scent that I love in the real world as well, that whenever I've mown or somebody's mown, and you walk outside and go, oh, that smells like fresh grass. It's just such a lovely smell that always makes me happy. So that is my favorite. And I've got a really good one that I'm hoping doesn't get discontinued. I'm sure they'll get more stock. It'll be fine. But that's my go-to.
Oh, I love that. That's the first time that anyone's answered that question with the answer, fresh grass. So thank you for, what's the word? Trailblazing the path with that one. Question 2, what do you love about candles?
It's the comfort of the flame. There's just something about it it's one of those really primal things, isn't it? Fire, people and fire, and safe fire. Safe fire is what we like. A nice little safe flame. I remember being alone in my flat when I'd first started making candles and looking around and seeing the flames and just feeling like I wasn't alone. And it was a bit of a bizarre thought maybe, but there's something about the life of it, watching it flicker and move and dance about. It's just delightful, and I never get sick of it.
Oh, that's beautiful. It's such a nice way of saying about the flame and how it can really connect you to, I don't know, something that's really primal and something that honours our heritage as humans, I suppose. So that's cool. And then question number 3 is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to other candle makers during their journey?
Be patient and do the dirty work.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, simple as that. There are no shortcuts. There just aren't, and we all want them. And you've got to spend the money, and you've got to spend the time. And there are certainly ways of doing it where it's not too much money. You know, as I say, do as I say, not as I do. Choose one fragrance or 2. It's so difficult, but just pick a couple and choose one jar. If you've got really limited funds, you can absolutely do it, but you need to be precise. You need to make those hard decisions to just stick to a couple of things, but then get in there and do the work, make the candles, burn the candles, write down everything that you find out during the testing process.
That's right. You've just got to do the do, as we say.
Do the do, yeah.
Jenny, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being on the podcast today. I've really enjoyed our chat, and this is something that we've been planning and organising for the last few months. So to be able to have actually chatted with you on the podcast is such an honour. So thank you so much for being here. For the listeners that would love to get in touch with you, where can we find you online?
I have all of the social medias. They're not very current, but that's on my to-do list, on my mental to-do list, is to get more content, start creating the content. So look for Hampton Botanic. I have the Instagram, the Facebook, the TikTok. I think the TikTok might be under a different name, so I need to change that to Hampton Botanic. So HamptonBotanic.
Perfect.
You'll find me there.
Thank you so much. Amazing. All right. Well,
thanks so much for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening today. I hope this episode added value to your candle making journey. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout today's show, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.